was born and raised in Southern California, Orange County specifically. I grew to love skateboarding and going to the beach and surfing, swimming. You know, sometimes teachers, they would like to single me out because of who my dad was. They would say, "Oh, Jonathan, I'd expect more from you, seeing as who your dad was." And you know, when you're a young kid, you take that to heart. People are expecting more from you. I just wanted to be like everybody else. I just wanted to blend in. But growing up around my mom and dad, I can tell you one thing's for sure. I was never able to doubt the existence of God. I recognized that they had a true relationship with Jesus Christ, and he had a great love for his family, and I always knew that. As the age of innocence was lost, I began to resent this question. They would ask me, obviously, "Are you going to grow up to be a preacher like your father?" I wanted to be known as Jonathan Laurie, not as the son of Greg Laurie, not as the son of the famous pastor and evangelist. I wanted to be known as my own person. So when I was 16, a friend persuaded me to try smoking marijuana with him for the first time. Let's fast forward 6 months now. I'm getting high 3, 5 times a day. I'm now drinking alcohol as well, smoking cigarettes. As I continued to live this lifestyle of smoking marijuana and living at home with my parents, I found myself living a double life. I was lying to everybody. See, the very thing I was running from, my friends were identifying me that at parties I would go to. I think there's some humor in that on God's part. Successfully lied to my parents for about a year. When I was 17, I was in a parking lot down in Newport with a couple friends. We were standing around my car in a parking lot at like 11 o'clock at night. It was a Friday night, and we were smoking pot. That's a real smart place to do illicit things, right? Well, sure enough, a cop car rolls up. He busts us. I get arrested. I get a possession for marijuana, and, you know, my parents had no idea. I had to come and tell them point blank what I had been up to for the past year and a half or so now. It was tough. So as a result, they put me on restriction. They took away my car, my friends, no surfing, no going outside, no skateboarding, you know, nothing, just mom and dad time. But before I told them, I told my brother Christopher. I told him what had happened. He prayed for me. He encouraged me to seek accountability and to get new Christian friends. He told me of his own problems of drug use and lies. He said that it was a lifestyle of temporary fulfillment and it was empty. So after a few months of being grounded, I started to get some privileges back. I earned some trust. And what did I do? I immediately went back to those old friends and I got back right where I left off. I was back to smoking pot more than ever. I was viewing pornography regularly. I was partying all the time. I was drinking underage, whatever. Whatever was around, I would do it. You know, looking back, I can really only think one thing, and that's that God had grace on me, because there was people right alongside me doing the exact same things. I knew guys that got DUIs, got STDs, got girls pregnant, knew girls that got abortions. I knew guys that got felonies, that got arrested, that are in jail. I had a friend, he was a close friend of mine. Before he went to sleep one night, he ingested a lethal amount of heroin and died in his sleep. Another friend of mine attempted to commit suicide. This was supposed to be fun. For 6 years, I lived this life of deceit and lies and the continual ignorance of the gospel. You know, as a result, I became increasingly isolated, lonely, depressed. I was isolated because I didn't fit in with either crowd. I had too much of the world to be happy in the church, and I had too much of the church to be happy in the world. Some nights after partying, I'd be driving home and I'd look over my passenger seat and I'd see the bag of drugs sitting next to me. I decided I'd want to quit. I did this a number of times. I'd be driving home, I'd roll my window down, I'd grab that baggie and I'd fling it out the window. I'd go to bed that night feeling pretty good about myself, thinking, hey, I'm quitting. Starting tomorrow, I'm gonna be clean. And I'd go to bed feeling pretty good. And that next morning, I'd wake up, I'd get in my car, I'd go find the spot that I threw that baggie out. I'd go back over to it, I'd pick it up, brush it off. It was usually run over by a couple cars. Sometimes it was wet, smashed, and gross. And I'd bring that baggie back into my life. I was addicted. I was never really fully honest with anybody, but the one person that I did share with more than anyone was my brother Christopher. One day we were driving in the car, he looked over at me, and after sharing some stuff that had been going on in my life, he asked me, Jonathan, what's it gonna take? You see, we were talking about giving my life to Christ. He asked me what it was gonna take, and I don't remember what my response was. I probably blew it off to some degree. I probably said something along the lines of, oh, I'm just having fun, I'm not hurting anybody, I've got all the time in the world. So while I don't remember what my answer was that day, his question really stuck with me. On a Thursday morning at my job, my boss came to me and he asked me how everything was going. The boss happened to be a friend of our family, and he asked me how my day was going. I responded, it was pretty good. And then he showed back up again about an hour later with a police officer friend of ours also. They told me at that point that I should come with them. I need to go home. When we got into my neighborhood, we rounded the corner. I looked in front of my house and I saw my father weeping. And I saw him collapse on the ground in front of our house. I didn't know what to make of it. As I got out of the car, a friend of ours got up and walked up to me, grabbed me by the shoulder, looked me in the eyes and told me, Jonathan, Christopher died. There's a different sunrise. I felt vacant. I was vacant. I didn't know how to respond to it. My only brother was gone. The only person I was ever truly honest with now wasn't on earth anymore. After everybody had left our house, things began to settle and I really began to wonder what this meant. Instantly, Christopher's words popped back into my head. What's it gonna take? What's it gonna take for you to give your life to Christ? And I knew what I had to do. I went into my room, I grabbed my drugs, my alcohol, pornography, cigarettes, whatever. You see, I still was hiding everything from my parents, so I had all kinds of hiding spots. I put it all on my bed in front of me, and I asked Christ to come into my heart. I prayed for him to forgive me. I prayed for him to not only take the addiction away from me, but the desire to do these things as well. And he's been faithful to do that. So today I'm married to the girl I had a crush on in junior high and high school. My wife and I have 2 children together. We've got another one on the way. God's blessed me more than I ever could have imagined. That's what the Lord can do. He can change anybody if you just give him an open heart. You see, I gave my life to Christ not because people wanted me to or didn't want me to. I did it because I wanted the hope of heaven. I wanted the hope of seeing my brother again. I wanted the hope of being reunited with family and friends. I wanted to see Jesus face to face. As Christians, we have the hope of heaven, not the hope of a life without sadness. See, God can use these things to bring us closer to him. Hey, to God be the glory.